Personnel be open.
I second it. All in favor? Okay, we're good.
And I call to order the meeting of the school committee for March 13th. We are now in session.
Okay, good. So the first thing I want to let you know is that I have been trying to figure out when you guys will come before the board, and the date is still up in the air. And so the latest information that I have is Rick is trying to get something scheduled, not for next week, but the following week. He hasn't got a date, so he's emailing Mary Shea, and he's emailing, there was somebody else he was emailing. He's emailing our secretary, Jamie, from the selectmen. He's emailing them. So they'll be coordinating dates, so I guess sometime tomorrow you'll get a notice. But that's what he's shooting for.
The week of the 24th?
Yes, sometime that week. And he's got Southeast Region, that's who else he's trying to get in touch with, so that they can put it on the same date. Okay? But the date has not been set yet, and you'll find out when I find out, because I've been asking him for 2 weeks. So, anyway,
When we need to be there, we'll be there.
Okay, good. Good. So, I guess what we'll do is, you want to go through the budget line by line like we did last time, because I can see from your pages your little question box.
Oh,
yeah.
You can do that.
I can give you a little intro.
Sure, that
okay.
sounds good. We can start with
Maria
that.
has copies of the budget for anybody who might not have
Yeah,
brought
go
it.
Please. And it's the same one that we have, this one.
It's the one that you have.
But nothing
Dr.
changed.
Brown.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Let me just see if this. So looking at the process of creating the budget for this year, as you know, we start as early as the summertime with the administrative retreat, when I meet with all the administrators for 5 days and we put together our vision for the district for the coming year. And they start to talk to me about their priorities, and we look at the things that are working and the things that need work and the information that we have that will help us make decisions, and that's kind of the beginning of it. And then we go into the school year. We have some individual hearings with all the administrators, and Maria and I put everything together. We cut down as much as we can of anything that we believe is extraneous. I gave the principals the same instructions this year that I had given them in the previous year, which is to a level service budget with a prioritized list of things that they thought they needed to move forward or to continue to replace things that had been cut during the recession in 2008, 9, and 10. And then when we had all of those things compiled, and we had a number of conversations with the school committee, with the principals, with the director of technology, et cetera, to look at what things would be connected with moving forward based on our plans for the district, the 3-year plan, the individual plan, the 21st century education plan that we had put together 3 years ago. This year was the last year of that. We looked at the things that had been cut, the 40 positions that we lost in 08 and 09, and tried to figure out, of the ones that we hadn't been able to put back yet, which had the most impact. We looked at the state mandates, and we had to decide where we were going to address the things that were unfunded mandates. So what kind of money do we need, and what kind of things we need to put in to make sure that we got the Common Core curriculum implemented correctly, that we move forward with the teacher evaluation plan in the way that is required by the state, that we were addressing things like homeless transportation and our training for teachers of English language learners. And so we had to look at the state mandates, the things that we had lost which were impacting the system, and the things that we needed to move forward, and a lot of those we got directly from our 3-year and our 1-year plan. Putting all of that together and having multiple conversations about it, and cutting out all the things that we thought might possibly be considered extraneous, we came up with the document that you have before you. And there are a few things that you will notice in it that are new, proposed changes and additions. I just need my little list. There are a couple of new positions. 2 years ago we asked for curriculum coordinators. And those positions have been extremely successful and have been very helpful in implementing the educator evaluation program. We now have to split those jobs so that we have a person in each area in secondary and in elementary. The amount of observations that administrators have to do of teachers now has gone from 1 or 2 in a year to a minimum of 4 in a year. And most of them are doing far more than that. They have to assess evidence, they have to meet with all the teachers on their educator plans and so on. So the evaluation process is taking up a great deal of time, and the implementation of the curriculum and the correcting it and tweaking it as we're trying it, all of that still needs work, and so we added a couple of positions there that we're requesting. We noticed some issues in the area of special education. Young children, if they're having issues in reading, the place to address them is as early as possible, kindergarten or first grade, if we don't get to it before that. So we have 2 reading teachers that we're requesting, and these teachers will also free up special ed teachers who are teaching reading now to address some of the issues we see in scores in students in the special ed area. We have a couple of other things we've added for special ed. One is an alternative teacher in the high school. We have 2 alternative programs, a behavioral and an emotional. And we've had half a teacher in each, and if we add a teacher, we'll have a full teacher in each, and that'll make the programs run better. We are looking to reinstate the late buses, something that has been lost in the budget cuts, and one of the things that we hear the most that people want back. So when people say they lament this or they miss that, or when can we get this back, I don't hear very much about a lot of things, except I do hear a lot about the late buses.
Wasn't that something that we brought up last year too and said that
Yes,
we
ma'am.
wanted to see you do it?
Yes. And since we've added remediation programs and enrichment programs after school at the elementary level, and we're doing it at the secondary level, we feel we want to remove all the barriers to people using those programs, and transportation is a big one. So that's why that's proposed there. And that the extended day at the high school is a stipend program. You probably have heard there's a new law that next year, Chapter 222, all the children who are expelled or long-term excluded, no matter how egregious their crimes, we have to educate them in some way.
Sorry.
I was reading it sometime. So we've started an after-school school for them so that they can continue to get educated as required, but they will not be in the general population during the day. The West has requested a teaching assistant. They're a little light in the special ed area, and that's what that's for. We have added an adjustment counselor, and so we put it in the budget halfway through the year using a transfer of money from special ed tuition so that we could fund it this year, and this would be continuing that job. The special ed department has a great deal of paperwork to do, testing to do, entrance meetings and so on and so forth, and the loss of the position of early childhood coordinator is one that has been the most deeply felt in the district. And so we replaced that halfway through the year with the same transfer, and this will continue this job into next year. They are understaffed to the extent that they really can't do the jobs to the high standard that they'd like to, and this is a position that really we've never been able to recover from the loss of, so that's a replacement, as are the special ed teachers in both middle and high school, which we lost by attrition during the recession. So that kind of hits the high points, and I'm now happy to go through the details with you. And Maria has her laptop set up, so hopefully if there are anything related to specific numbers and grants or any areas that you have questions about, you'll be able to look it up. If not, of course, we'll make a running list and we'll get you whatever else you would like to see after we're done.
When I went through it, there wasn't a lot that, because it's my 3rd year, 4th year.
Yeah.
So it's like I kind of know what was in there. But I thought we'd go through it just page for page, and if there's anything on it that you have a question about,
Yeah.
we can go.
I
Okay.
just wanted to ask quickly.
Yes, sir.
You said that some of these were half-year positions?
No, well, I did, and so what we did was we noticed that we needed the adjustment counselor, the DAW school, and the West School were sharing one, and they were having issues where an adjustment counselor was needed and had to come flying over from the other building.
Okay,
So we wanted to put that in this year. And the early childhood coordinator, they were drowning over there, so we wanted to put that in this year.
okay,
So we transferred some money from the budget that we're working with now, from special ed tuition, to fund these special ed positions in districts.
okay,
But then I had to add them to this 15 budget so that they wouldn't go away and just be half-year positions.
okay,
So they're full-time jobs that we have instituted this year and would like to continue into the next fiscal year.
okay.
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 I have one other question before we get too far. We gave you some things last year. Were they successful? Did you fill them? Were there any that we gave you that you didn't fill? Because I know like you had one where you were gonna go into the younger children, the ones that were at the poverty level and tried to help them.
Yes, we did
And,
that.
yeah, how's that working? Because that was the
Really?
one that we thought we might want to even fund higher.
And did you create a marketing position?
We created a, I'm looking for the list of
A
the
publicity-
new jobs.
No.
A community relations
specialist.
specialist,
Okay.
yes, we did.
And that's what school districts, you know, a lot of school districts have a position like that. It's not marketing. It's only-
Well, yeah. Sorry,
No, no.
I amend.
So, yeah, so where's my list? Okay, those are the things, here. So, for this year that we're working with, FY14, we added the community relations specialist.
Yes, how'd that work out?
Very well, and I can print off an entire list of things she's done since she started.
It's
You might have
impressive.
that
Yeah.
list,
Yeah.
and we're happy to show you that. If you can call it up, maybe we can.
I think I only have it on.
I was gonna say, you might want to bring that with you when you meet with the whole committee, you know?
Okay. I can, did you get that from Jean?
No.
If you would go in my email and do a search of Oscar.
I actually can, I'll find it and I can email it.
Parent coordinators, people love the parent coordinators. They're 2 at half-time, so that we're able to have a halftime one in each. We had upped them from a third time to a halftime. They're doing a spectacular job. People really like them. They have multiple problems, they do, but they have multiple programs running. They're doing curriculum nights for parents, and they have a team of parent liaisons in each of the buildings, so they're reaching out to people to get them to come to meetings. It's been really successful. And some of the things that the community relations specialist has publicized, so on that list that Deborah will find, she'll mention some of the parent coordinator things that she's been telling people about. The parent liaisons are in the buildings, the principals love their parent liaisons. The parent liaisons have been able to do things, for instance, like call parents, so the one in the West School, called all the parents in the West School to ask if there were younger siblings at home who could take advantage of the Title I preschool program, for instance. Looking for families to take advantage of the Parent-Child Home Program, which is, you might have been talking about. The Parent-Child Home Program is, I believe, there are 12 families in their second year and 12 families in their first year, so a total of 24 families that are actually getting that service. And
What does that involve?
it's this amazing program that was invented, discovered, started in New York in the 1980s, and it's been proven, as it's been duplicated, to be extremely successful. The students who come into school with academic readiness do well. And those students tend to come from middle-class homes where people have books around, where the parents are educated, where they have an opportunity to be exposed to cultural activities and so on. Children from disadvantaged households don't come with academic readiness. The Parent-Child Home Program has figured out how to take a trained worker, send them into the home for 2 hours a week to teach the parents or grandparents, whatever caregivers, how to read and play with the children in a way that develops academic readiness. That most of us have experienced because our parents learned that through osmosis and then passed that down to us. And if you come from a household where that's not been the experience, then the parents don't know how to do it. So it's been great because what they found over the times of looking at this is that children who go into preschool from the Parent-Child Home Program tend to be as academically ready as children from middle-class homes. So it's basically duplicating those things that middle-class parents do without even thinking about it. And they have a set of books and a set of toys, and each time they go, they bring a book and a toy, and they show the parent how to interact with the child around that, and it works wonders.
So how old are the kids? They're like preschool or something?
2 and 3.
2
So
and
you're
3.
you're 2 in your first year, so we have some in the first year, and then you're 3 in the second year, so we're in the second half of the second year for our first cohort.
And how are those families identified? Or if they self-identify, or?
No, there are different ways that we can do it. Some of it is church outreach, some of it is nurses can tell what families are underprivileged, some of it is what families apply for free and reduced lunch. And then we ask those people, do you have 2 and 3-year-olds at home? So we look at the families that we are already working with that appear to be under-resourced, and then kind of mine that group for younger children that we can start working with. The ladies who do the Brazilian school have been able to help us find some families, so we have some Portuguese-speaking workers who can go into homes of people who don't speak English. And if you teach children those skills in their native language, they are as useful as if you teach them in English. Because if you learn those skills, it doesn't matter what language you learn them in, eventually you'll carry them over when you learn English. It's really cool. The thing is that it's labor intensive, and we're looking at 12 kids a year. So
Right.
that means you look at the West School population, if you're gonna have 4 kindergartens with 15 or 16 kids in each one, one full kindergarten class is gonna be more academically ready. But then we have the Title I preschool, which we run out of the Jones, which hopefully will get another 15. And then if you have another 15 that are already academically ready, then at least we're able to bring up some. It's very one by one, seek them out and get them in the services early. It's a lot of work, but we do find that if you don't come in with those things, it's very, very difficult to catch up. I mean, at what point do you achieve at 3 times the rate of somebody else in order to catch up to somebody who started ahead of you? The behavior data curriculum specialist, we already had her, but we moved some of her salary over to the district budget so that we didn't have to just use her in the Title I school and could start spreading those things to other schools. It's been very, very successful because the work of setting up data teams, looking at that information, figuring out how to change your teaching based on that information, that's her area of expertise, and teachers are hungry for it. The world language teacher and the music teacher in the middle school, that was so that we could offer a full pathways curriculum. That's worked out really well. It's exactly what they wanted. Then we did one switch teacher, PE for social studies, and that was to make the schedule work better. That has worked. That didn't cost anything. The library assistant is keeping the library open after school. Students are using the library after school now. That's made a huge difference, and that actually surprised me a little bit, how many of the high school students have taken advantage of that.
At
And
3:30
they
one day,
swarm in there, yeah.
And-
It's great. It's great because we're watching them, we're taking care of them, they're here with us. I would have expected 10 or 12 kids, whatever, but it's been a lot of bang for the buck. It was more of a need than we even thought.
And that was told to you by the people that came and evaluated?
Yes, NIASC.
Yes, they
Yes.
wanted that. Okay.
Yes, they did. The guidance counselor in the middle school, they are all extremely happy. It's a much, much better system now. So there are 3 guidance counselors, each one has a grade level. So you get those kids at the 6th grade, you carry them through for all 3 years, you know them, you can write their references better, a guidance counselor per class group, and especially since we now actually have them teaching in pathways, it was a huge hole. It's fantastic.
So they follow the same kids 6 through?
Yes.
From 6 through 8?
Yes, so
Okay.
if you were the new guidance
Right.
counselor and you started this year,
Right,
you
so
got
then
the
you-
whole 6th grade
okay.
class, and now you're gonna
Right.
go with them to 7th grade,
Good,
and then you're gonna go with them to 8th grade.
great.
And how many kids in a class at the middle school now? 200, 300? So you've got one counselor for 300 kids,
Right.
basically. Okay.
Which is still not luxury numbers.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's still a
No.
big number.
But it's much, much better than 450 each.
Yes,
I mean, that
definitely.
is, yeah, it's significant enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can follow one cohort
Mhm.
and get to know them really well.
Right, because what usually happens is you know the bright kids, you know the troublemakers, it's those poor little kids in the middle who are kind of quiet that nobody kind of notices them, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Right, that's right. The network support technician, we've actually tweaked that job description to make that an assistant to the tech director, because we thought that there was more to do than just network support. Since this position was created, Dr. Gray has decided to retire. So we are actually now, we didn't want to hire an assistant until we had got a new director in place. So we're right on the cusp of hiring a new tech director, and we have a candidate identified for this job. We want to put the director in place first. He'll be with us through close to the end of the year, but then he's moving on.
Oh, Dr. Gray?
Yeah.
So he'll stay for
He'll-
a
he'll
while?
transition.
Yeah, that's good, okay.
Yeah, he's done amazing things. I mean, the things that we have are the envy of other districts all over the state. People say, wow, you have smart boards everywhere, that's really amazing. And it's like a lot of, hi, Mr. Dave, just find yourself a seat.
Thank you.
How
Drew,
long's he been here?
17 years. And the infrastructure he's built is just amazing. Drew is a graduate student in leadership. He's taking a course in administration. He's also one of our teachers. So he's here to see how government works. Right, more or less?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
A computer technician, we have filled the position, but then we had somebody quit, so we're one down now, but we're looking to fill that again. But we did fill the new job. The registrar at the high school, the office is running much more smoothly. We continue to have as a trend, and this is something that has been brought to my attention as this year, much more noteworthy than in other years, students moving in mid-year. So the Daw School has had 30 students move in since the beginning of the year, and the middle school has somebody every day, and the high school has sometimes
Technology
more than
drive.
one every day, and other places.
In
They're
other
just from
places, too.
all over.
So, the family's moving into Stoughton?
Yes.
Huh.
We're trying to get a handle on, like, what does that mean? What's the demographic? Is there a reason? Are they coming from a certain place? And they're still compiling that data. But having the registrar has made it much easier to manage those things. So what it means is the guidance counselors can actually do guidance work instead of spending half their day registering and unregistering students as they come in the district. And this is something we're going to have to watch, and I'm hoping to be able to put together enough information around it to be able to see if there are trends or, but that this is definitely something that's really come up on everybody's radar screen.
And somebody checks to make sure they're actually living here.
Yes, Bruce Jackman, who's our residency officer, he just put in a quarterly report to the school committee. He does residency checks, he does checks when, he's very, very effective.
Okay.
In fact, I can share with you the most recent report.
I'll write that down as a note.
He just gave us one, so we could see how many checks he did and how many people unregistered or withdrew their application because of his work. So that's been short money for a really big bang.
Because that's what we hear a lot when you go out on the streets, is that there's kids coming from not Stoughton here. So I like to be able to say, oh, no, that's not true. We have somebody who checks
Well,
that, you know?
If anyone is suspicious, if a kid, you know, there are things that will maybe, if a kid maybe divulges something by accident, or they're seen getting off a bat bus and then we get a tip, Bruce tracks all of those down. He's very thorough.
We get quarterly reports, and the last one, it saved the town $140,000 in just one quarter.
We did reinstate the secretary at the Jones. That, along with the early childhood coordinator, has just been, it's just been an amazing help to their office. I'm not getting calls that people aren't getting calls back. We're not having late paperwork. The families have somebody to interact with at the door. It's been really, that was another position that was a real miss, and we're happy to have that back. And we did replace the custodian, and the extended curriculum day is well underway. We've got programs running for remediation in English and in math, and then we've got a lot of enrichment programs running in robotics, race cars, poetry writing,
Where's that?
rockets.
Where's that running? Is that at the Jones School or?
At the elementary schools in the afternoon.
Okay.
That travels.
So they're traveling modules. So
Oh.
for a week, you can sign up for the race car module, and then that will move on to another school, and your school will get the rocket module. and then that will move on in your school, get the poetry writing module. So it's kind of a really neat use of resources, and it gives kids exposure to different things.
And it's after school.
Yes, and it's after school. And this year, we're doing it without the late buses, and we're still filling the classes. So, and it's a good thing we've added a little bit more money so that we can have more modules next year, because if we're filling the classes without the late buses, I think once the late buses start rolling, that we will have no trouble filling even more classes. So that's what's going on this year. It's been great. These programs are up and running, and I think they're just really fantastic, and they're really popular, and people really like them.
Good. Good, you like to hear that money's being well spent, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's doing what it was meant to do, and it's, it will, I think, show the results that we hope that it will show. We won't be able to right away see, can we translate that into some improvement in a particular score? It's gonna be a little early to show that, but I think overall, it will show that eventually.
Do we even know what scores are being used these days?
That's what I was gonna say.
probably
No.
another.
No, and we have been picked to test the PARC test, the new test.
Okay, is
Pilot
that
test?
instead of the MCAS?
It eventually,
Okay.
if the
Parts.
state finally
Parts.
decides to adopt it. See, right now they're hedging as to whether or not they're gonna adopt it, but if they're not, they're making an awful lot of us go through an awful lot.
Sure.
So,
So do you have to give both tests?
well, this is the
Yeah.
conundrum. It is very, very, some people
Poor kids.
consider this inhumane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can opt out of MCAS if you want, but the Daw School is doing it for a grade. He's choosing not to opt out of MCAS, because if you opt out of MCAS, you don't get running data, because the PARC data is not going to count. So it means that your kids will have a gap in MCAS, so you won't be able to see if they went up, have they gone down, are there any areas that have to be addressed, so, and they haven't said how they would study the long-term, they're doing growth trends. How can you do growth trends if there's a whole year that drops out?
right.
So it's really a Hobson's choice. If you're gonna decide that you're not gonna do it, then you're gonna lose data for your school for a year. So unfortunately, it means that there's an awful lot of time that children will be spending.
Yeah, it's
Taking tests.
unfortunate. I'm not a big fan of just
No, there's,
teaching the tests all the time.
Right, and when you get them in college, I can tell you right now, they can take a test, but we're losing their ability to think.
I know. It's not the same as learning.
And I just wanted to say, I was over in China this summer, and one of their big things was they're saying their kids do so well on the test, but they don't think, and so when you want to do
Yeah.
innovation, you have to come to America to get
Yeah.
somebody to go over there, and
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
beginning to think that testing their kids
I,
is not the way to go.
I would agree, and it's not like there aren't many assessments that are done at the school that are available to kind of check and see how teachers and students are doing. It's out of control.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll just read you a few things from the list of what the community relations specialist has done since she
Okay.
started. She's met with all the principals, the administrators, special ed directors, athletic director, tech director, CPAC, introduced herself, learned about what they do, and how she can share that information. She's actually in an office with the parent engagement team, so she's attending their meetings and publicizing their programs, and she's going to the programs that they offer. She's taking the video training at SMAC so that she can create and edit videos, and part of that is so people can see what's going on. But some of it is if they do a math curriculum night for 5th grade at the Daw or the Gibbons, and then that can run on cable for the 5th grade parents in other schools that, or even that school who might not have been able to go. And we bring in trainers, and for it to be just a one-time thing and then get lost, this way more people can see those things, so I think that that's really important. She's been in email contact with all of the department heads and the guidance people and everyone, and having them send to her the things that they're doing so she can get them out there. She started a Facebook page for us, and she's visiting all the
Has about
SPS
600
web
followers.
pages. Yes, and she's helping people update their blogs and things on the website so that more of the principals' information gets out. I can't see the Facebook page because we're blocked here, but people come running in all the time and tell me all about it, so I'm trying to get Larry to get me past the filter so I can see it from my office.
Are you on it at all?
Well, I'm on Facebook, I'm not on your page.
well,
yeah.
They sent you an invitation.
So did I, so did I.
I only check Facebook like once a month.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow I'll go check.
She's been contacting the press, sending press releases and photos and information to them. She's going to be taking over, updating the website. She's in the process of training with Larry on that right now. There's a community relations webpage on our school website now, our Stoughton Public Schools website. She's working on the special ed website because that was a little anemic. She's attended a couple of the town master planning meetings. And she's going to all the concerts, the school enrichment, the science fair, science olympiad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to take photos and post information about those things going on, which this was in response to the fact that when the master planning committee did focus groups, people said, we wish the schools did this, we wish the schools did that. More than 2/3 of the things that they wish the schools did, the schools do. And the issue was nobody knew about it. And so now we're hoping that people are going to start to know about these things. And she's looking to do a newsletter which can go to all households and businesses, and we are particularly interested in targeting the real estate agents, so that when people come to town, that is one of the things that they will be able to brag about.
I think that if you can get out some of those programs that you were telling us about, the enrichment after schools, the late buses and things like that, and they were available in the real estate offices, yeah, people
Yeah.
would pick them up and look at them.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that some of the verbal feedback that I've gotten, particularly with regard to the Facebook page, is that parents are learning about things that they didn't know were going on, that they like seeing their kids, but they like seeing their grandkids and other people's kids, and in general, they feel more connected to the schools, which is just what we want them to do.
Well, and we also used it, she put out a post at my request to talk about the religious holidays and the decision that we were making around the calendar to get parent feedback,
Yeah.
because otherwise we really do not get a great deal of feedback from the community. And it wasn't overwhelming, but it was certainly, I think we had 8 or 9 responses based on that page.
It was more than I'd gotten for
A long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
we
we're
delve
ready.
into the specific numbers?
We're gonna start going in.
Okay.
So, one of the first questions I have is that currently in the budget was money for raises, and you have not settled the contract yet. So, and we never did find out what that number was, but we know it's in there somewhere. If you do not settle the contract by the end of the year, can we expect that money to be turned back? Because like with the selectmen's budget, we put all the raises into the special line of the selectmen's budget, and at the end of the year, we're getting it back if they don't
Right.
settle.
Now, our budget is very different,
Mhm.
because we have a bottom line budget.
Right,
And so, we do not have the same obligation
right.
to
you
put it in a
don't.
pot for people to see and look at it.
Right,
And
It's mixed throughout.
it's mixed, we get that.
we'll let the steps and the salary are in the salary line, so that you see the difference from one to the next in the specific instructional areas. What has happened sometimes is if there's money left over, we reallocate it to buy certain things. So I'm just gonna say that's something we sometimes do.
Right.
Last year, we asked for a contingency for special ed tuition, which we've done before and have had to use it. This year, we didn't need it, and so you did get it back. And we did not spend, in terms of, this winter has been a horrible winter, but last winter, as far as energy costs, was a light winter. And we started realizing the savings from reballasting all these lights. I don't know if you remember, but this is actually a very different sort of lighting from what we had 2 years ago, because all of the lighting was replaced with cheaper.
Yeah, more efficient.
Yes, more efficient stuff. So, you got that money back. So, in all, you got $780,000 back.
We're very excited.
Because I promised you
You
that
did.
if we didn't use it, you would get it back.
We remember
Now,
that.
In this case, now, we are a long way from being able to make a decision about whether or not this contract is gonna get settled. It's not been an easy conversation. It has not been easy on these people, right? So, it's probably not a good idea to talk at all. I mean, I'm reluctant to say yes, no, or, what will happen is, if we look like there's going to be a significant surplus, then it's gonna have to be a conversation that I have with the school committee. Do they want to transfer and do something with that? Or do we want to just put it back in the general fund like we did this year? But I'm gonna tell you, and you know, you've known me now for 7 years, when I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. And when we didn't use that money, you got it back.
Yep.
And, you know, we're looking for things that we think are important, that we're gonna ask for a piece of it. You know, it's gone back, we're gonna ask for a piece of it now to use in different ways, and you'll see what those are. And just as we were fortunate in budgeting, they weren't so fortunate as far as the health insurance and the Norfolk County retirement. So how nice that that was there for that.
Almost the
So-
exact amount.
So I'm not gonna change my practice of telling you what we want it for, and we will use it for that. And if we don't use it for that, we're gonna use it for something that we're very, very public about, or you're gonna get it back. And all I can say is, look to past practice if you want any reassurance around that issue.
Okay. I just know that some members of our committee wanted to take that money out, not that, you know, and put it in a special fund, so
And
I
it's-
just
it's-
wanted to be able to
And the
have this
statute,
conversation.
the statute is very different with the
Yes.
school budget, so they don't actually have the latitude to do that in the way that they would with the town.
Right,
But the reason that we are able to have such a good relationship and have over the years is that we're very, very careful to maintain the credibility around what we do. And we know that the long-term investment in you believing in that is worth a lot more than doing something with a couple $100,000, believe me.
okay.
So, it seems like, the school committee and, leadership are working with the town a little more,
Yes.
coordinating more and jointly, so that's a really good thing.
Yes, it's since Mr. Feaster came in as interim and then was replaced by Mr. Hartman as the new permanent town manager. It has been very, very easy to build relationships with them, to work with them on things. We have a great relationship, and it's actually reflected in, you may notice the way that we did the executive summary this year was different. Mike and I did it jointly as the two executives of the town. We're looking at making sure, instead of fighting over a small amount of money and trying to like choke each other, and we're looking at trying to make sure that everyone's interests are maintained and served, and looking at the things that we do in common and fund in common and so on. And I have to say, it is absolutely in every way the way I like to work, and it's been terrific.
And I want to add that the two boards, I think, are really just cognizant of the fact that the town's about economic development, and that we are so interrelated in so many of our services, and that it doesn't pay to play those
Right.
games of mine versus yours anymore. And you know, they realize strong schools help the economic development on their side. We realize we need their infrastructure to support what it takes to have strong schools.
Right, and you're having some joint projects, like, you guys might be changing your accounting package, or.
Yes.
Coming up.
So, and I
If the
strongly
town meeting
support
supports
that.
that, yes.
Yeah.
We do have an
Yeah.
article in for them to come over to the product that we're using. So if there's the municipal piece of the product that
Right.
we're using, which is a Tyler Technologies product that we've had for years, and that would mean reducing a lot of redundancies of having to input into different systems.
Right, that's,
So we hope
Very
that that
important.
article is looked on favorably, because it is a fairly big investment in the
is that
package.
the 900,000 that's in
It's
there?
It's
close
about
to
$1
that.
million, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I know some people in the audience are like, raise their eyebrows, but it's long overdue, and I really strongly support it.
and it would be helpful, I think, in that, so we use a check company now, Harper's Millennium, that we would not need them, because this would get rolled into that. Our payroll people have to input into two systems, they
Right.
wouldn't have to do that. Nobody would have to transfer anything into anything, because we'd all be using the same thing. We're very
Okay.
keen on doing it.
Right, good, I hope
Okay.
it goes through.
Me too. So the next question is that, assuming that you settle the contract, the money that you anticipate spending for next year is in this budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's in the lines where we see the difference between the two things, okay. Just want to make sure that you got it covered, but I figured you did.
Yes.
Okay, so, and the steps and everything else is in here.
And
Whatever you feel
There's
you
a lot
need,
of conversation
right.
about what is the structure of that going to look like? So you can have a very different structure that, you can use the same money in a lot of different ways, and the goal of the school committee is long-term predictability and sustainability. And having said that, there's money in here to fund.
To fund everything,
Right.
so you're not gonna run up short. Okay. Hmm?
The money we have is spread around fairly.
Okay, because when I was looking at it, and, you see that there's a difference between what you were spending this year and what you were spending next year. So I was assuming that that was anticipation of settling the contract.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have?
No,
did-
just,
yeah,
I
there wasn't-
noticed-
I didn't have any questions either.
Yeah, I don't have that many, but attorney's fees, I know,
Oh, yeah.
it looks like there was a really
Okay.
high number.
Oh, you are only on 20, okay.
High number in 13 and then much lower. Does that go with like
Are
a
you?
contract settlement?
No, and there are a lot of reasons.
What line is that?
I'm looking at page 1,
Oh.
attorney's fees under the
Oh,
school committee
right,
budget.
right.
If you look at that big number, it comes out to be about 100,000.
Mhm.
If you look over at 14, it's split, so there's 0, 0.
Oh, okay,
So it's just split out
Gotcha.
more to
Alright.
show which
Alright.
ones were which, but it's just
Gotcha.
more or less it's actually budgeted about 30,000, no.
Yeah.
It's about the same amount of money,
Right. Okay,
It's-
yeah, I
yeah.
didn't, thank you.
it's just a little more delineated.
And have you hired a new business manager?
Yes, that would be
Oh, hi, yeah, okay.
formerly the business manager in Weymouth.
And
previous to that,
Congratulations, welcome to
Mashpee.
Stoughton.
Thank you.
And fortunately, Kathy Silva, who though retired, is still, around and
Okay.
has helped
That's
Maria
fine.
learn a little bit of the history and,
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, let me tell you.
yeah, so brought her up to date on all things Stoughton.
Right, so she's
Yeah.
still
Not an easy
helping to train Maria?
Yes,
or-
it's less
Yeah.
necessary now, but
Right.
she's a great resource, Kathy is, yeah. So Maria's been on board since,
August
Oh, okay.
26th.
Oh, so you've been here a while, so.
yeah, we handed her a
Right as the
new-
budget
News
started.
travels
Right as the
slowly
budget
to
started.
me.
Oh, she's been busy in the budget.
Okay. You wanna go page by page, because I don't have anything till 26, so you wanna look
Wow.
and see.
And you have different numbers than ours, I guess?
Page numbers, I think.
Yeah,
if you
your
can go
page
by,
numbers?
I have
different?
page numbers, but I don't think they're different.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
start here on 1?
No, we start on 20.
So this is 20 for you?
Yes. Because
Okay.
you're after we have the thing that came with the
The narrative.
town and the narrative.
Oh, they have combined calendars.
Yeah.
All right, that's okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
renumber mine.
No, that's okay.
as we go.
Yeah, okay. So I
So
didn't
where would you
have,
like me to go next, Mr.
well, I didn't have a
Um,
question till 26. I see circles.
Barbara, which page does yours start at?
Mine starts on 20. It's
Oh,
the one
starts
that
at
we
20, so
came,
we'll have to add 19 to ours.
No, she's got a different number.
yeah.
Right, she's looking at the town.
Yeah, ours came after the town, so it was what they gave
So
us
that's
at
what I'm
the,
saying,
yeah.
so if we add 19 to ours, then we would be
Oh, yeah, that would work.
comfortable.
That would work.
Super much.
So, let's get to 26, I have a question. Okay, so, on page 26, the number is different by a lot. And I was just curious.
In which area?
It's right up there, where you were at 53 and 13, then you were at
Which
207,
department
oh, I'm
number,
sorry.
Barbara?
Multimedia services, 121, okay? FY 13 was 53, FY 14 was 207, and now we're down to 61. So I was curious what the change was.
That was a reclassification of teachers,
Okay.
so there's a lot, this is something that's always in flux.
Mm-hmm.
We have a business department, but we also have a multimedia department. And where you put the computer classes, where you put the computer-aided design classes, where you put the TV classes, that it could be considered business, it could be considered multimedia. So when we get to the business department, I think you're gonna see the money that's not in multimedia services you'll see those teachers.
Yeah,
have
that's
just
probably
been-
I probably have that
placed
one
in another
circled too,
area.
yeah. Okay, so you've just moved them.
Yes, we moved them. There is no request to change the size or the makeup of the faculty in high school.
Okay. actually don't even
I
have
don't-
it circled in this.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions about the budget. I mean, it seems
Well,
it's really well laid out.
we
and
have worked for
straightforward,
a
and it
few
gives
years.
salaries,
Right.
you know,
We've worked on the format to make it really, really clear.
it's
Um,
excellent.
We've done some, I don't know, do you have the color
You don't have, if they got the one from the town, they don't have the color version,
Oh.
which is unfortunate,
Because-
because it lays out.
Some of the things where there's ups and downs, we have,
Right.
they're in different colored print, but I'm sorry you didn't get that one.
Maybe a digital.
Oh, yeah, okay, so there it is, I missed that
I
one.
looked
Wow,
for
how
them.
did I miss that one?
That would, yeah.
Would you like the version with the colors?
Email to you?
Sure.
Sure.
Well, it-
Email
it's
them, but
really
don't
easy.
print,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
print,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
big on not printing.
It is actually on
No,
the
no,
website.
but the email.
Right.
All right.
And I'm just saying that because as we've been getting
Where are you,
feedback from
Barbara?
you.
What line?
Hmm?
I'm sorry, but where are you? What?
Oh, I just looked at the businesses and found it and said I was surprised that I didn't notice that, so I'm fixing it, I know what you did know, add it.
But we really try and make it as easy to understand as possible and to make it as organized as possible. And then when we get feedback or we see people have little confusions about things, then we try and tweak it to make it clearer, so.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So I'm on 31, my next question was on 31. Do you
Go
have
ahead.
anything? Oh, okay, all right, so now we're on,
Oh, yeah,
what
what department is that?
sorry, special ed.
Which is what number?
12.
Department?
Hmm?
What number department?
766?
Oh, 766.
Yeah, 31, never mind, you've answered it. I had a question, but that's the early childhood coordinator that you talked about in the beginning.
Yes.
Okay, I'm happy.
There are 3 additions there, because that's where there's the early childhood coordinator, but then we are asking for a middle school and high school special ed teacher, which is in the list in the narrative.
Okay, so then I went over here for coaches, wait a minute, I have to see, because there was something that went up. Oh, I know, it just says officials for all home contests went up $20,000.
Is that athletics on page
Yes.
32? That is a fixed cost, because
Okay.
those prices are set by the MIAA, and when they raise prices for the entire league, we just pay them.
Okay.
So there was a increase in pay for officials this year. We can't set them.
Just to let you know, Barbara, that the officials that we use in the youth programs are all going up also.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the transportation, I was a little confused because you said that it's transportation away contests and practices. You said next year's gonna be 50,000, but it says 50,000 to be paid with student fees, so does that mean that it's 100,000?
Yes.
Okay,
And that's another thing, we do get an offset from the fees in athletics, and that's been handled in different ways over the years, and sometimes there's a little off this line, a little off that line, but we thought it was just actually a whole lot easier to track if it came off one big thing, and transportation made sense, because that's a big number.
okay.
And the transportation is games, obviously, and there are sports where we don't have facilities on site, such as swimming and ice hockey, that we have to,
And then it's
Plus the
official.
kids too.
but then we're getting a new school.
Yeah, we'll put a swimming pool.
No, that's, yeah.
Only in Newton,
Don't start
only in
with
Newton. My other question was,
If I win the lottery.
if it's being paid by student fees, do we see that anywhere in the budget where the
No,
student fees are now?
It's not in the budget.
So they're not the
That's
fees
in the
are
revolving
actually-
accounts.
Okay.
We just set up the budget with an
Okay.
anticipation of what we'll be getting from fees based on the history of the amount of students who participate.
Okay.
So the actual cost is 100,000?
Yes.
Okay. And then I had a question, but I wrote it, but now I have to figure out what I meant by it.
How about the custodial? That's like two pages. Seems like that went up some.
Oh, yeah,
Pages
I
back
read
or
it.
2 pages ahead?
Ahead,
Yeah.
towards the end.
Okay,
One
right,
62.
34.
34.
Okay, we did add one. We added one. from
Added
in the
one custodian.
Yes, but a lot of the day custodians, the night custodians, and the maintenance people were cut during the recession, so we added back one. But we also settled very amicably contracts with all of our other unions, them being one of them. And one of the things that they agreed to was a consistent salary grid of 2.5% for indefinite years. But in order to get that to work for everyone, we put everybody on a favorable step to begin the process. So we basically bought a sustainable system, by making sure that everybody was placed in a way that was favorable. And that is the way all the other contracts were settled as well.
So everybody was placed in a favorable starting position, and then what,
Yes.
2.5 per year?
Everyone is on a, everybody's on a grid, so each custodian goes up 2.5% a year. So there's no steps and COLAs, there's no, some people get this, some people get that. They've agreed that everyone goes up 2.5% a year, and that is indefinitely. So we know now.
Forever, you mean?
Well.
Well, until the next contract.
I mean, we could, it may be that somebody wants to negotiate something else, but the system's in place now, so that we can plan for so the custodial salaries, we can plan into the future at 2.5%.
And they don't exceed the Prop 2.5.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can continue to pay them, keep the amount of people that we have, give them a little increase without basically breaking the bank. And that's what we're going for, is to set up the whole contract, set up the budget so that we can keep moving the system forward within the parameters of the 2.5%. Now, obviously in these last few years when we're trying to put things back, that's a little bit different conversation. And if the town has more money, new growth or something like that, well, for heaven's sakes, there's always gonna be a million things we need. But we wanna make sure that the meat of the system is sustainable.
Okay, and I have a question on 34 also. Workman's comp. I thought workman's comp was part of the joint accounts and that you already were paying that. I thought that was in those joint accounts.
I don't think workman's comp is. I don't
Because
think
remember
unemployment
during
is
the
either.
finance committee meeting last week when he came in and he was talking about the
Yeah, I
workman
think we're
comp going up?
town's self-insured for workers' comp.
Yeah,
right?
but remember he said that
Yeah.
it was going up? Yeah, so
Yeah, because of
I-
some catastrophic losses.
Right, and
for
I
the-
thought that, I
the
thought at
town
that
and
time,
school,
yeah, I have
and,
notes
Are you
somewhere.
sure that's not health insurance?
Are you,
'Cause that's
No.
are you talking about unemployment maybe?
No, no,
No,
it was
he
definitely
definitely
workers'
said
comp.
workman's comp. He said that you guys caused more of the workman's comp than the town.
Well, we
But-
have most
Employees.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
had mostly employees.
Yeah.
So so you had
it
more
looks like-
instances, but the cost was low compared to like some catastrophic
They don't-
injuries
Yeah.
that happened in
Yeah, you had
DPW
little
or
petty
something.
things,
so-
yeah. Insurance, I can't, I
So
don't have my notes good enough to.
So it's not a
exactly put my
joint with the
finger on
town,
it.
I'm not sure why we don't have anything in 13, but we do in this year and we do in next year.
Well, workman's comp, they are self-insured, so, I mean, we do have to pay out anybody who's out on a injury,
So that's,
probably about
but you
60%
have to
of their
pay out-
salary. We
Yeah, but-
do, we pay it out,
but-
yeah.
but you didn't have any claims in previous years?
Oh, we've had claims, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, we'll have to check on that and see.
Yeah, I don't
So
know
we're
why
gonna-
it's accounted for differently.
Yeah.
And I know we're self-insured, but I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly what the mechanics of that are.
Yeah, I can't either, but we'll check on it, if you guys wanna check on it at the same time, we'll find out about that. We just have to ask the town manager. Maybe I misunderstood what he said. It's very possible, we went to a lot of meetings, but
Yeah,
I
that,
sworn that he said. All right, and then finally we come to page 35, and that's the crossing guards,
yes,
which got moved.
right.
So we're going to remove that money.
I think they're going to bill us.
That is not what we heard, but we will check on that if you think that is true. No,
Okay.
it's definitely a line. I did not think you were getting billed.
Okay.
Remember when we talked about that when he was there? He said that they're going into the police budget, and remember no, that was dispatchers, right? Crossing guards. are
Barbara, I'm
going
sorry, I missed,
The crossing guards.
for the crossing guard.
Yes.
The dispatch is combining fire and police
Yes.
dispatch.
Right.
If they have put in a line for the crossing guards, I'm happy to cross this line off.
I believe they
Um,
put in a whole department.
If they haven't put in any money for it and they're going to bill us back, they have billed us back for stuff in the past.
Yes, we're gonna find out about that too, but there's definitely a new thing called, here it is, crossing guards. They've got their own budget, it matches your number perfectly. He
you
did
go.
not say anything at the time about billing you for
Okay,
it.
is
So
it
we will find
92,401?
No, 97901,
Oh, okay, counting the supervisor and all that.
Yes.
And their little supplies.
yes. So that, the whole thing, so they have their own budget, so I'm assuming that if it's not being billed back. But
Scratch
we
it
are
then.
gonna find out.
So does that mean you guys can reduce your budget by that amount?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
I was figuring we were gonna budget for it and then give them the
Yeah.
money anyway, so.
Yeah, right.
Well, we weren't really sure whether what the town manager said at the meeting was he thought you left it in here so that if this did not get approved, it would be in your
Oh,
budget.
true.
And I was going to say, if this does not get approved on town meeting floor, I will move that we put it back in your budget, but I don't see it not being
Right.
approved.
And there are several reasons why it was something that we all were in favor of. Most towns do have the crossing guards under the auspices of the police, so that's common practice.
Right.
They have a different authority when they are under the police. They can direct traffic. As school employees, they are not allowed to direct traffic, and so that puts them at a disadvantage. And the other thing is that the roads are not under the auspices of the schools, really. We don't fix them, we're not responsible for the signage, we're not responsible for any of those things. We work together in a task force, we have input on those things, but there are employees on a part of the towns that's not our grounds.
Right.
So, for those three reasons, it made sense, and they liked the idea, everybody liked the idea. The crossing guards readily agreed to it in the contract talks, so.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to
So you can cut
consolidate
that
public
number,
safety.
Yeah,
Rock.
well,
Yeah.
they'll be so proud of us when we come back, we cut them.
Cut us by
I'm not looking to
$100,000.
cut you guys.
We're so
you know.
Okay.
But no tasers for crossing guards.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not sure that's
Okay, so my last question, I believe that you answered it, but I just want to make sure, is that right now there is extra money and special ed in case somebody moves in.
Yes, we have built
Okay,
a
you have got a
contingency
contingent.
in, yes, we have.
Okay,
Um,
and it's about the same as last year?
Yes, Maria, do you
What
want,
I
page
think
is
we
that?
added
did we do
5%.
5%?
Special ed's on 31. Okay, so,
Like,
and you added a little bit more, just in case.
is it 5%?
And again, if there's
It's
leftover
actually
money,
35.
you will,
The tuition contingency is in 35,
35.
9,000 programs with other districts. And you'll see the public school students, that's collaboratives, private
which
schools.
page are you reading? Because my 35 was the crossing guards.
Right.
Oh, right down at the
It's
bottom.
the same
Okay.
one.
All right, gotcha. Okay, so.
Yep.
Is the contingency 5% or 15%?
I don't remember what we did.
Maria says 5%.
That was 5%. Well, we are losing a few students because they're aging out too, so.
Oh, it says 10% on the budget. Tuition includes a 10% contingency
Yeah.
for
There it is,
unexpected,
okay.
okay, so it's 10.
And you know that has changed over the years, because in '09, I think we had none, and we had our fingers crossed. In '08, we had 5%, that wasn't a great year, so we do what we can afford, and in the really, really bad years, we're gonna cut a contingency before something that we know for sure that we're going to use. But that's a workable
Because
number.
if you're getting as many kids every day,
Coming in through.
and it's, what is it, 1 in 25?
16% are going to
16%.
need special education
Yeah.
services.
So-
Not all of them out of district. I mean, that's the
Right.
more extreme, but of that 16%, then you're gonna have,
A certain percentage that will
Yeah.
be out of district, right. And even if they're not out of district, you still have to
pay things
pay
for
for
them.
things
Right.
and services and. Okay, so that was my budget, what about you? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Wow.
I told you it was gonna be easy.
That's
I
awesome.
told you it was gonna be
It's
easy.
always a lot of fun, because I love talking about these things.
Yeah.
And we're always,
Actually,
you're always
it is
really
a lot of
interested
fun,
in
to
it,
tell you the truth.
and it's nice to talk to
You
people
guys.
who are interested in it.
Well, there really wasn't anything in here either that, because the only thing that kind of went up was like your salaries and stuff, but, you know, that's to be
Right.
expected, right?
Right, and for the
And you
couple of
told
new
us what you
programs.
were adding, yeah.
Right.
And they seem like good things.
Yeah, so the new positions that you're asking for, is it worth prioritizing them or not?
No, because what
okay.
we'll do is the same thing that we always do. If for some reason it isn't possible for the town to give us this number, then I go back to these people and we start the conversation all over again about what we're going to cut. We're operating from the standpoint that we need all of these
Okay.
things. And if we have to revisit that and have a whole new conversation about it, then we're gonna do that. But until we need to do it, and this is, there's a game that I don't play, which is let's ask for 35 things and then, you know,
Right.
twist my arm up behind my back and
Right.
give up some of them. What you don't see is there's a list that is
Yeah,
two-thirds,
I-
it's
yeah,
like
that can
twice
imagine.
this
The wish
on the
list.
cutting room floor. Right, so we've already done a lot of vetting of things based on data, based on the prioritized directions we wanna go.
And these things come out of our various plans, our district improvement plans, school improvement plans. I mean, it's, there's data to support all of them.
Okay,
They're not just pulled out of the
right,
air.
yeah. How about the,
Now
are we gonna do the warrant
Yeah,
articles?
that was on the agenda, so we can go to the warrant articles now. Okay, 'cause-
And those maybe you could prioritize for us, maybe.
I think they are prioritized.
Are they? Okay,
We generally do that.
all right.
So we gotta figure out what page they are. And we'll find out about how the workman's comp works.
And we're gonna find out if you're gonna pay this, but I don't feel like the crossing guards are gonna be done. Okay. Boy, I've used it so often, it's like running out of staples here. Oh, there we go.
It's like a well-loved book about the community.
It's been a hectic couple of weeks. Okay, so, your first one, if I'm right, is the windows?
The windows
Page
for
50.
the windows and doors for the Hanson.
Yeah, my question was, I was under the impression we already gave you this money.
You did.
Okay,
Yep.
yes.
You did, well, yes and no. You gave us a sum of money, I don't recall the amount off the top. We entered into the accelerated repair program with the MSBA, and this is our first time in that repair program. We've been through other versions of it, but it's existing for us for the first time with these projects. And as I'm paging through to find my support information, we found that there is a cost of doing business with the MSBA that we hadn't truly accounted for. So we had window and door studies done several years ago and had done several projects pre-MSBA money where we funded them fully, and they came in right at our estimates. Using the same estimates, we went back and asked for money from town meeting, and the architect that was assigned to us from the MSBA said, no, it will be more. And what they do in the case of accelerated repair programs is they really cover every worst possible case that could happen for the sake of the MSBA, so you don't come up short. So what they've said is you need to ask for X amount more, and in this case they said $717,000 more. We do, however, have a number that has been reduced to, and that's what I was paging through here and I don't have, but I believe for each of the window projects, each of those that were in the 700,000 range, the number we're going to actually be amending it to is about 400,000.
So,
That before is that when it comes up in?
Exactly.
Okay.
So this will not be the amount we asked for before. Hoping still that these worst case scenarios don't happen. They had accounted for all sorts of hazardous materials, and we've since had testing done, and there's a small amount of remediation on the Hanson, but very small, isolated to just a few windows. So again, their $717,000 number accounted for everything. We've since narrowed the scope. We know the number's certainly going to be smaller, and again, we hope that it comes in closer to the estimate, but we can't go through with the MSBA project until we've committed full funding.
okay, so we gave you some amount that you have not borrowed.
We have not borrowed.
Right.
I feel like it was 650, but I could be making that
That
number.
could be
up.
close.
And like I
think
said, I
it's
have the
somewhere in
table
there. Okay,
somewhere,
so
but-
there's a number, we'll call it 650 for now, but it's something. And now you need another 717 for worst case scenario, but you think it's gonna be 400.
And I actually have my articles
Okay.
being heard on the 19th, and I'll have those numbers for FinCom then.
Okay, so you'll have
Yeah.
the numbers, all right.
I may have. We presented them once.
You want that? I'm not
That- you have that-
the boys.
No, this is a spreadsheet that Joel prepared.
Probably don't have
Yeah.
those easily
Yeah.
accessible.
And even worst case scenarios are reimbursable.
Our reimbursable is still roughly 50%.
Okay,
And even with the additional money requested, we're going to be making more than if we'd funded it ourselves.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's still a win situation for us. The MSBA assigned us an architect and an OPM, an owner's project manager. And of course, there's a cost associated with that, which we wouldn't have had on our own with past projects. So right off the top, there's, 30, 40, 50,000 for each of these projects, that is.
Right, so they pay back, they give us back 50%, so it's still
Yeah.
cheaper, but it's not,
The state, MSBA?
Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Okay, and they're a funding
They're,
authority?
they are the funding authority. It's 1
Okay.
point off the sales tax goes to fund school
Yeah.
building and repairs.
So it'll still be cheaper
Oh.
than if we did it ourselves,
Right,
because we get to the 50% back.
okay.
And you, if I remember from last year, you don't borrow it until you need it.
Correct.
Correct.
And then you only borrow
What
the
we
amount
need.
that you need.
Right.
Okay.
And over the years, Joel has left many, many dollars on the table never borrowed,
Last year's?
Okay.
because
Oh,
we
no,
only
yeah.
ever borrow it if we need it.
And if I remember correctly, that reimbursement comes back pretty fast. Well, you used to come back pretty fast.
It actually comes back faster now than
It
it
comes back
used to.
faster, okay.
Yes.
So the money is like, okay.
And just, again, for your information, our pre-design's all been done, wrapped up, and it is before the MSBA board on March 26th for approval. So at that point, we'll have the approval to actually go ahead and bid the projects.
For
March 26th for
all of them or just the Hanson?
the Hanson,
Because
that report I have in my folder, okay?
I was gonna say, because I know you applied for the Hanson
for three
because we
windows.
gave you the money.
Yeah, no,
And
It-
the West Gate is ready, but the doll windows, are the doll windows ready? Two days.
Because can you apply for this if you haven't got the money? I mean, if you don't.
yes, you could, yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
you can apply for it
And
and then go to town meeting and
Quite
ask for the
honestly,
money.
they expect, they do expect in most cases that towns are going to apply for the statements of interest and go through the process.
Oh,
And then
okay.
at some point along the line, get the funding. So, yes, they'll,
Okay.
with their approval, if you don't have the funding, clearly you can't spend the
All
money
right.
until you have it, but if you do.
I
So they
wasn't
are,
sure.
before them on the 26th are the West, the Daw, and the Hanson.
Where's the dog? And the Hanson. Okay.
March 26th?
Yes.
Because I was kind of happy the way you guys were doing it, that, you know, you were doing this school, and then the next year you did the next school, and then the next year you did the next school, and that kind of makes sense.
Well, and we
to
got
me,
out
but-
of line just with the
Yeah.
Hanson having been borrowed the year before the others, in that the accelerator repair program was kind of dangled out there but not
Yeah.
ready. And so it wasn't until this year that we were able to basically ask for that money as opposed to funding it ourselves.
So if I think of it in my head, we've already given you this money.
Yes.
So that way, we're only paying for 2 this year, right?
Well, you've actually
I feel like
funded,
it's better.
you've funded the West
Last year?
and the DAW last year.
Okay, good.
But again, we're gonna ask for an incremental amount more to cover the MSBA
Okay, so
cost
more
of doing
because of
business.
But chances are really good that you're not gonna need it.
We're not gonna need the whole amount, we're gonna need some of it.
Okay.
We know that at the DAW, there were 0 hazardous materials, other than what they normally prepare for in the removing of caulking, which is asbestos, which is part of their normal, like I said, construction or demolition process.
And
So
just,
these are the worst case scenarios from the MSBA, and slab will come down, and we're gonna get reimbursed 50%.
Yes,
Of whatever the final.
of our
Right.
final cost is.
Okay.
And like I said, we handed a spreadsheet out, actually to FinCom, when Joel and I did a preliminary appearance before our Board of Selectmen, I believe it was FinCom, which I thought I had in my folder today, but I don't, that has the amended numbers.
And the windows and doors, do they leak, or,
They leak horribly.
okay,
They're,
Figured.
not only do they leak, they're single pane, they're what they call non-thermally broken, which
So
means they're
it'll
just
be-
large expanses of glass without mullions that break the thermal barrier. And a lot of them that were replaced, at point were replaced with a poly material, which is
Right.
clouded, and it has, of
Yeah.
course, shrunk away from the aluminum, and there's, yes, all
is
sorts
it
of
going
issues.
to be, save energy costs?
You know, immensely.
Okay, yeah, good.
I did it in my home recently, I can tell you that it is not only an
Yeah,
energy cost
I
savings, it's a
didn't,
comfort
and,
level that's
Yeah,
amazing.
great. Now, can the classroom windows be opened?
Classroom windows have the lower case.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The
All right,
lower,
The
good.
traditional,
Yeah, okay.
little kids can't jump out.
right.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, excellent.
okay, so we replaced we gave you the money for the West, the Dot, and the Hanson last year. You're asking for more this year, so the new ones are for the Gibbons.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why that's so much more.
That's why that's so
And
much
that's why
more.
that's so much.
And that is, again, their worst case scenario. I do believe that Joel has, based on what we've heard now from the architect for these other schools, been able to adjust those numbers down slightly as well. But again, I'd have to refer to that spreadsheet.
And do you happen to know how old the roof on the Gibbons school was? Because did we repair that? I feel
I
like
don't know,
Not
the
too many
Gibbons, I
years
know we
ago.
did some other ones.
But we're not doing it each year.
No, we're asking for, it's not on, we have SOIs in it.
Yes.
And for next year, so we're asking for the funding to be committed now, and the statements of interest are being submitted to the MSBA to be included in their accelerator repair program for next year. I cannot tell you if the Gibbons has been replaced or not. It was a 1970 roof.
Right, and I thought, that- I didn't know if we replaced it or we, well, you can find out when it is
Yeah.
before you come before
And
us.
Joel will
they're
be
gonna
there.
ask.
Joel
Yeah,
will be
they
there
will
for that
ask
portion
how
of it,
much.
and that is all.
Does that leak?
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Did you know that from the gym, mopping, like
Yeah.
playing
I know from
basketball around the puddles?
And I can tell you that,
We dribble through the place.
you don't think that, the roof has probably got as big an impact on the energy savings, but it's huge. And we replaced the roof on the DAW, maybe my son's last year there, and they replaced what used to be an EPDM, a tar and gravel essentially roof with white PVC.
Oh,
And just the fact that it's white means it's not absorbing
Right.
heat, it's reflective. The PVC's got added insulation, and the energy cost, Joel keeps a spreadsheet of every bill he's ever paid and how much energy usage there is. And the drop at the DAW the
Yeah.
year after the roof was just amazing.
now, is that a rubber roof or
It's PVC.
PVC?
Rubber was kind of a generation of roof in between.
Oh,
gravel
okay,
and-
all right.
yeah.
You know, PVC likes pipe, they're pipe.
Yeah, oh, it's,
Yeah.
like, oh, they
So that's what they make them out of now.
Yeah.
Oh, who knew?
Who knew?
learned something.
Okay,
And that's
And who knew
better.
that I knew this? It's wonderful. And they have a
It's
life
better.
that's, they're like 40-year roofs, I believe, as opposed to what used to be a 20-year roof.
Yeah. Great.
so how long was it? I'm sorry.
And again, Joel will have the number that's exact, but the PVC roofs have closer to a lifespan of 40 years than the previous
So-
20.
From what I'm hearing, these are all necessary.
Yeah.
Energy saving, leaks, you know.
Well, and they go with the facility master plan in terms of keeping our
Okay.
buildings up to date, because you get to a certain point where you
Right.
let a roof leak too much, and then all of a sudden you're compromising the interior walls and the other parts of the structure.
Well, I think the DAW, wasn't the DAW in really terrible shape or something, but, or,
Oh, the DAW was, no, the DAW and the Gibbons are pretty much alike.
okay.
It's funny though, because even those schools that are two identical schools, depending on their like wind exposure, it's
Yeah.
they'll have very different issues, and very different wear, and the DAW certainly has some nice wind exposures.
Oh, yeah, I seem to remember being over there and it leaking.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been.
So just to ask, the South School, you're not doing any repairs on?
We're doing day-to-day maintenance, we're not doing, and emergency maintenance, we're just not
Life
doing,
safety repairs.
large systems.
So, worst case scenario, we can't replace it. You guys have a contingency plan? I hate to wake up one day and find out, oh yeah, there's no roof, there's no window,
Well, it's being repaired, Barbara,
Okay.
so
Yeah, yeah.
when it leaks, it gets patched.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
And when something, if a window breaks, then that window's gonna be replaced.
Okay.
If a pipe breaks or something, and tiles come up, things like that. So it's being kept, money is being spent on it to
Right.
keep it in
Okay.
usable working condition. But it would not be on the list of things,
For roofs and
For-
everything.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah, we're nursing it along and keeping it running.
We also know that several years ago, an engineering firm came through and rated every school building in the state for the MSBA, and they gave them a rating of 1 through 4, 4 being failed. At this point in time.
South School got a 6, right?
South School got 3. Every school in the state that was a 4 at this point has either been closed or has been repaired or replaced under the MSBA building program. So, being a level 3 building, we know that it is a high priority of the MSBA to target that set of buildings.
Because your other problem is that even if you get money from them, it doesn't mean the town will
Absolutely.
pay for it.
Absolutely.
So, which is kind of a scary thought,
But we hope we've been preparing the town for that discussion, that it's
trying.
not just the high school, that the South School is.
So those are the 2 priorities, the
Yeah.
South School.
Yes.
And would the South School be built in the same area, footprint, or?
Again,
like-
that's all due to a feasibility study.
Okay,
And quite honestly, the feasibility study for an elementary school is gonna look very different and be a lot more comprehensive, because it's gonna take a look at our entire elementary population, and that's the point that you decide, do you redistribute, and do you, yeah, exactly. So, we don't know the answer to that. We know that answer less than we know about the high school.
how about the Jones School, how's that going?
Well, the Jones School is where we've had a long, long struggle over the easement to allow the.
Oh.
I was gonna say, still?
Didn't we,
Did we take it by eminent domain or
Well, I
something?
think
Thought we
it's,
did.
I think it's
Last-
almost close to done.
It's almost
yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Um,
I know,
and
I know.
there
There's some
are,
electrical connection that we had to take by eminent
yes, well,
domain.
The electrical construction was done 2 years ago, the
Yeah.
connection just can't be
Right.
made till the easement is legal.
Because they won't come
Right.
on the property in case anything happens.
but anyway, that was a good, that was a good plan, and it will get hooked up. And we did do a roof on the Jones.
Okay,
And
so
the
that's,
building itself is sound, and
Good.
our preschool programs are in there, extended day
they
programs
still
are in
use
there.
it,
The Charms Collaborative has a couple of rooms in there. We have offices in there, special ed people, speech therapists are in there, so the building is up, running, being used, there are children in it every day.
Do they use the gym? Is the gym usable?
Mhm.
So the whole building's usable?
It is.
In the buildings, in those,
Oh.
the preschool, the 100 children are there are mandated, they're the program that we
Yeah.
are, mandated to fund and.
Right.
Put 100.
So it's up and running.
there too, right?
Oh, yeah, well, we have the redevelopment authority has an office in there,
nice.
and
And,
they have their
file
files in
cabinets and
there,
everything,
and
yeah.
so, and we've arranged for storage for things town hall doesn't have any room for. So right now, until there's an alternative, it's an excellent use of it as a preschool, because unlike, so the elementary schools, people are drawing from the surrounding districts, but the preschool
Right.
services the entire town.
Right.
And the Jones is a nice central location, so it's not really any further from anybody than anybody else. So that's nice, and then when we have that conversation about the South School and what should be there and what the long-term layout of where the school should be and so on, would be a time to have a conversation to see if we should have a more contemporary early childhood center attached to another building or something, and maybe repurpose that. But it's, for the time being, until there's a better alternative, it's our preschool, and then we've been able to use the space for some other things too.
And the standard practice for, in preparation for building new school buildings is to use off-the-shelf architectural plans that have been used
Model school.
similar towns.
That's model school.
It's one of the options.
It's just an option, so.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an
Yeah.
option,
Right.
but does the
Right.
state look,
Cheaper option.
does the state look favorably on
Well, you know,
that?
it's funny, there's on the MSBA website, there's a whole discussion about model schools, which were first built in 2005, Whitman-Hanson was the first
Right.
model. They are now considering just about any building that has been built, whether or not it was one of the official models, there's 4 for the high school, to be acceptable as a model themselves, because
Right.
they've been true tested buildings. So the concept of the model school from its original 4 high schools is in flux and changing, and it may well be that you could pick another school that didn't build a model and say, we'd like that to be our model. So
Right.
they look very favorably though on things that have been tested and commissioned for energy
Right. Does
usage.
that save a lot of costs?
It adds some bonus points to,
Okay.
to our reimbursement rate. So for instance, I think the
Yeah.
last I heard was like 5 points. So for instance, if our reimbursement rate is 50%, I think the model school program adds 5%. And there are a number of strategies, like a green strategy, green building construction adds to the reimbursement rate. So your maintenance program, which, we have excellent maintenance records. So all those things kind of add to the
Can
reimbursement.
you get it up to 100?
Yeah, we can.
Only, if
Early
only,
model
if
schools
only.
did, but do know that just choosing a model school doesn't mean they pull the plans off the shelf and
Right.
it doesn't cost you anything, because
Right.
every model school is still stretched and configured to your size of population and to your specialty.
They're
So
very
in the end,
elastic.
the architectural costs really aren't a huge savings. The savings though are in the fact that the tightly written specs mean that,
Right.
a contractor's gonna build this as
Right.
per, and you're not gonna run
Right.
into some of the issues like we did with the fire and police station.
Right. I hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that was pretty bad.
Anything else? I noticed that you didn't ask for anything other than your buildings.
Right.
So. that was
We've really
good.
tried,
That's
it was
good,
quite a few
yeah.
years ago, when Tony was still here, when I was first here, there was a $200,000 article for textbooks and a $200,000 article for instruments.
Mhm.
And some folks stood up and said, we believe that this kind of thing should be in your operating budget, and we are gonna vote for this now, but we are not gonna look favorably on you trying to get this kind of thing through the article process. So we've taken that really, really seriously.
And that would
And
probably
you'll
still be the
notice that
case.
you see very, very little of that. We may come to you at some point and say that we're doing some kind of a one-to-one device program that's gonna involve an investment, you know, I mean, then over time, we lose textbook costs potentially and things like, something really monumental, you may still see come forward, but a lot of those things,
What?
we've tried to get them
And the
into
white screens or whatever.
The smart boards, yeah.
Smart boards, whatever they're called.
Yeah, and they're spectacular, and now we have them in all the classrooms, and that's why we don't need to be asking for those anymore.
And we've really committed to this facility master plan. I mean, it was a plan that we took very seriously. It's you know, a living, breathing document.
You
to us.
guys developed it, or was it
It was
a
townwide. We
joint
actually,
town?
we had proposed it as a school
Oh,
master
okay.
plan, and on the floor of town meeting, they amended it to be townwide.
Okay.
But, you know, again, knowing that schools account for 80% of the square footage of buildings, and just huge issues, huge roofs, huge issues.
Right.
That it certainly applies to us probably more than the rest of the town. And with our resource that we have in Joel Harding, and with a committee that is really active around it, it is, like I said, a living, breathing document that we work from, we make our decisions from.
I know right where it
I
was.
think people
Got it in
really
1
trust
second.
Joel.
Yeah.
Well, not to,
Yeah,
They'll tell me.
doesn't apply to everybody else here, but,
Yeah.
and, you know, Dr. Gray, people that have been around for a long time.
Okay, I'm satisfied, you're satisfied?
I am.
Okay,
yes.
so we have to have a meeting, you and me, at some point in time to vote. It should go.
Would you like us to
really
all
easily.
leave? Like, we could just,
What, to vote to accept
we
this?
can all
Yes,
leave,
accept it.
we can leave and you can have
could
your
do
own
it right
meeting
now.
now.
No, we need to digest a little bit. I feel like we could do it early before one of,
We'll have
like,
to do the
next week
minutes
before.
before.
Well, besides
Yeah, he
Bob,
has to do
maybe,
the meeting.
I have to
maybe
do the
maybe bring
minutes.
Bob.
Yeah, we might be able to bring Bob in, who did show up,
Yeah.
I don't know where he was, maybe I didn't give good directions, it's possible. But
Couldn't
maybe
find a
we could
school.
maybe we could do it 5 minutes before one of our regular meetings.
Okay.
We have to post it though, so I'll
The,
post it
The
for.
minutes, you mean?
No, we have to
That
post the
you're meeting
minutes, or we
notice.
have to
Oh.
post the meeting that we're meeting to vote.
Oh, okay.
So I'll set it up for our next one.
All right.
Do you want to set it up for our next one? Do I have time?
For,
It's Wednesday.
so what, do you have to advertise it or something?
I have to, no, I just have to
Oh.
call the, you have to have, it's 48 hours, right? 48, yeah, it has to be
48
48 hours.
business day
Business
hours.
hours, business day hours, Saturday and Sunday.
2 business days.
Saturday and Sunday don't count.
If I send it in tomorrow and she posts it,
Then we can
then
vote
we're
on
good for
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay.
I'll set it up for 6:45, okay? I feel that it's gonna go
We
fairly
meeting at
fast.
7:30?
I think what you do
Oh,
is
are we
cutting
meeting at
yourself
I
7:30?
think
short.
so, I don't think it's gonna take
Okay,
45
good.
minutes, right?
7 o'clock then,
All right.
7:15.
Fine.
7 o'clock.
7
We'll do
o'clock.
7 o'clock, so we have 15 minutes to breathe
So are you
before we
telling me
go.
that Wednesday's meeting starts at 7:30?
I,
Believe so.
Because I never got a notice on it except to hear that that is when my articles were being heard.
Your articles are being heard then?
On the 19th is what I got from,
Okay.
Maybe in.
you better check on
Yeah, you
that,
better
I don't know.
okay,
I know this week they were at 7:30, the week
Okay.
before they were at 7.
okay.
I have a calendar, I just don't know which one I have is the latest. Hold
And
on.
my articles weren't on the calendar, but I got an email from,
Rick,
no, I asked
Howard?
Joanne Lorette.
Yeah, I didn't know,
All right,
I.
March, this is a good one, 7:30.
7:30 on the
Yeah,
19th.
this is
yeah.
the new calendar.
Yeah, so we'll meet at 7. I don't feel it's gonna be very,
Is that the article?
long.
No, we're not gonna get into
I
heated
feel there
discussion.
won't be a lot of good discussion.
On the 19th, or I was thinking about something
You know.
else, yeah. I emailed you and Joel
I didn't know that,
last week when I found out.
Oh,
Howard
big time.
made
Yeah, I
the
understand.
schedule, I thought Rick did. I was very surprised by that.
The finance committee?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I didn't know that either. Okay, I need a motion to close the meeting.
I moved that we close our meeting.
I seconded.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Well, you're an agreeable group.
I abstain.